involved. Therefore, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and it kills the bond. And when you kill the bond, it kills their economic system. So if you shut off the blood supply, vampire, he's bad with his cape and all this stuff, but you know he can't play the super guy too long when he's lacking blood. Therefore, an exploiter, quote unquote, vampire needs your blood, and he needs your cooperation and consent. Stop consenting and watch the vampire die. That's what you do. Claim your nationality and kill the bond. Meanwhile, take the time to study and learn to reject all the other systems and platforms that Rome has constructed for the enslavement of humanity, and come to each and one another's aid sincerely. That's how you're going to defeat the demons, because that's the truth. Because you need each other. You really do.
So there was a question I'm trying to find. There was a comment or something about, and I'm using codes because I don't want to. So I want.
You have to, because the demons are on the platform.
I'm going to call it A and Chrome, and we know about that. They want to know, I guess, what you know about the A Chrome. But I can say, for one thing, it's very interesting. My mind went back to a particular so-called movie star that, over I think in the last year and a half or two, wife divorced him, and one of the things that was at issue was the amount of expensive wine he was buying. This expensive wine. This particular actor started
the Roman ritual of the
Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. You'll know who it is, and looking quite youthful. But the wife, one of the things the wife cited was paying like $1,000.
No, it costs around $8,000
for bottles of wine.
A pint.
It was wine in the.
And you see the priesthood doing this ritual too.
But it wasn't wine.
Of course, it's not.
And you see the ones that have been youthful.
It deals with child sacrifice.
Since Trump put started to
an executive order against
the executive order. Do you see how many of them have aged or disappeared altogether? Mm-hmm. Because they haven't had their $8,000 wine.
It's one of the reasons why I said, a year ago or more, about 2 years ago, when I started saying that I'm not defending, don't confuse me saying what I'm saying or what I've said with support of. Just look at this thing from a metaphysical point of view. When I said that Donald Trump is assigned, he is assigned. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And I said that years ago, and I'm saying it again. And I'm telling you why I said it.
Mm-hmm. So there are, I highly recommend Noble Mormon, that Weird Seeds Inside the Canyon, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops in the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. That is a very, very eye-opening book. Currently also reading, Sister Cynthia turned me on, Martin L. to the Wilmington, the lie that happened in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, yes.
And can you, I just got, because somebody called me about this, and I just got Peter Moon's Montauk Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because the person that told me about it was really, really just over the moon, no pun intended, about the fact that I guess Noble Drew Ali is mentioned in that.
Yeah, I talked to Peter Moon a few years back.
And the conspiratorial things that took place with other
the betrayed organizations, yes.
Yeah, so you got an album,
which is available in the congressional records, actually. Yeah. Also in the for those of you who are researchers, give you some reference. The history of American religions, you'll find some of the documented facts that Peter Moon also mentioned in reference to Noble Drew Ali, and you'll recognize other so-called black organizations that claim Islam were breakoffs under COINTELPRO operations to actually divert people from the Moorish Divine and National Movement by design to create schism. And it's a known fact. And it's also one of the uncomfortable um, pieces of information that was exposed to Il Malik, known to most as Malcolm X, when he made the Hajj by a French Muslim, etc. When, of course, according to instructions, Malcolm went over there talking black and white, and he was corrected about the truth of the schisms that were operating at the Maghreb, which is actually here, Morocco, the most extreme west. And he was put in a very uncomfortable position. And also that knowledge, among other things, and revelation of that knowledge made Malcolm become, by not from his fault, but just from being exposed to other knowledge, he became the target of character assassination and the conspired person of assassination by members of the gangs of New York and other persons claiming to be religious who were supposed to be his brothers in concert to remove his life, because they knew that he was eventually telling certain truths that made a lot of people uncomfortable. So it's more about Malcolm X that many of you all need to research. Truthfully, that's not told to many people in public.
And folk know. I mean, people know. A lot of people know that know we need to listen to. And I'm planning to have some more people on guests rather on office hours with Dr. G. They may be European, but they're speaking the truth. I was just in a conference the other day who had Richard Smith and his wife Maria had, and thank you to my sister Cynthia L. Martin L. And there was a modern European daughter there, teach Michelle Gibson.
Oh yeah, Michelle Gibson.
Michelle Gibson,
a scholar and a researcher,
speaking the truth about us and doing it from a standpoint of not
historical
trying to
historical
research, and the fact that when she found out what the truth was,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. So she's doing everything she can to expose the truth.
And keep in mind, as we go through this trauma, some will call it transition, some will call it apostasy, some will call it Armageddon. All means the same thing. Those who put themselves on the line to help with the uplifting of fallen humanity during this time of turmoil will be remembered. Keep that in mind. Those who have the courage to stand against the odds and tell the truth in this time of turmoil, where the dark priesthood and vampires are at the height of their power and are attacking anything that deals with the activation of the pineal gland, or with justice, or with that which is right, or anything that's de jour, or anything that is Moorish. Keep in mind, those who aid in the help of uplifting fallen humanity will be remembered.
Let me see if there's any more comments. Yeah. What nation does one such as self-Caucasian claim ancestry is Ukraine, or is that a different situation? I've been watching your work for years, so full of knowledge you give. Thank you. This is from Ukraine.
Now, still, if you look at Ukraine, you still look back to the daughters of Nefertiti. You're still looking at Saba. Once you really begin to look at the history and the walk of man, you'll find that we're one big family that fell into schism by the hands of the dark priests of the world. Now, that's the truth. Another thing that you can look at, like for the brothers and sisters from Ukraine, look at your traditional dress, your traditional, what they'll call them now, rather than call them traditional garb, they'll call them traditional costumes all over the world. Look at the constructs of your traditional dress, your traditions, your customs, and then look at the etymology of your linguistic forms and it'll trace you back again to the ancient Sufi, i.e., the men with the hair like lamb's wool, i.e., Saba, Sabi. That's the truth. So it's sort of like we're suffering all over this planet from the hybrid Europeans claim to be us, but who are not us, who have been practicing destroying the original culture of Asia, Africa, and separating humanity and hiding the truth of the walk of man, and therefore making people think that your contemporary names of the different nation states has separated you from the truth of African origin when the planet is Africa. So keep that in mind. So look at the customs, look at the dress, and then look at the ancient trust customs and dress of ancient Saba or Africa or the Gnostics, and you will see absolute and direct constructive conjoined similarity showing you the origin. So also look at the ancient Naga. There you go. It's traceable. It's just that there's been so much denial that people, so much effort to destroy Moorish history and culture that people start thinking separate when we're not so separate as people have been thinking that we are.
Let me see if there's any. I'm actually ignoring and blocking trolls, but I was gonna laugh. Somebody said that neither one of us are Moors. They are so funny.
That's fine.
I think I want to laugh. I want to laugh. I don't know what that was, but
it doesn't matter.
You are blocked. Aha. Now you're blocked. How about that? Yeah. Let me see if there are any more comments. I have to learn how. Taj, do you know the name of the book by Lincoln where he called Dred Scott a Moor? The name of it was a book. It says, "Do you know the name of the book by Lincoln where he called Dred Scott a Moor?" Did he?
No, I have a couple of books on Lincoln.
Was it Dungy or was it Dred?
No, that would be because when Lincoln was a lawyer, he was defending against the slander of William Dungy being called a Negro and a black. Because he's dealing with the pedigree from a law perspective, dealing with the slander laws of the United States, etc., which have always been in place. And that would be the William Dungy case
not the
of 1853, in the 1852, 1853 era. That would be the William Dungy case when Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. This was before he was president for the United States.
Was it a book or was it just a legal?
Do the research on legal documents registered in Cook County, Illinois, and you'll find some of the affidavits issued by Abraham Lincoln. And that would be more specifically the William Dungy case, although that was not the only case that was argued in a period of time. That was one of your primal cases. And the William Dungy case is a few years before the Dred Scott case. And keep in mind that the Dred Scott case is deemed as the most important slave case ever to be presented before the Supreme Court of the United States. And that was ruled in 1857. So the William Dungy case was before the Dred Scott case. And those are two important cases dealing with status and estate and those principles relative to citizenship, the capacities and the incapacities in relationship to citizenship. And for those of you, or for the average brother and sister out there, and people out there doing a little bit of research, just go to any standard quality dictionary and look up Moor, look up black or Moor, the compound word, and just do a general history on all the persons or people who are dark complexion or Asiatic Africans. And that'll give you just basic knowledge that all scholars know and any researcher knows. This is just basic stuff. Then if you're doing any research into Asiatic African history, philosophy, culture, 7 liberal arts, the fundamental rules of erudition and education that have been a standard across the world, including the oldest universities in the world. Go look up Moorish history to study African history, and it takes you in and back to your ancient Canaanite, Moabite history and culture of Hikupta, Egypt, etc., universally for all African Asiatic people. And that's a fact. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And so when you have trolls or people who are trying to divert you, keep in mind these are people who have been benefiting from the civil liter mortuus operations that have been particularly executed at North America, Northwestern Mexico, and exported around the world, etc., to keep this knowledge in the dark. And generally, it is referred to, quote unquote, in secret society as the Great Seal, quote unquote, as Muhammad's Mountain, quote unquote, or the Great Masonic Secret. All of those are phrases that actually hide the true history, much of the true history and the disciplines of the walk of man. And it is not limited to what people refer to as some religious perspective. It is actually the science and the disciplines of humanity at Midgard in general.
Let's see. Foster Cameron Hunter said, what does Alkebulan mean? The same as Asia?
Yeah, Alkebulan is also referred to as Hikupta, or what you call Africa, and certain sections of Africa, or Hikupta, they refer to as Kemet. So when you think about it, from a common perspective in modern educational platforms, they will limit to you of the modern contemporary name of Egypt, limited to a jurisdiction in North Africa on the east side of Asia Minor today. But in fact, in context of time, it included most of the landmass of the world, in truth, including the entire Western Hemisphere, which comprises Hikupta or Egypt, the capital dominion, in fact.
Let me just see. Hot Tot L. Todd, what do you think about speaking in tongues as it relates to Christianity and spirituality overall? Can you speak about that?
This is the position I take on that. If one is given a message from the spirit realm, it's usually for yourself. And anyone who receives spiritual communication, and if they have some comprehension, they should be able to etymologically interpret it and give reference to it for all what you will call linguistic formats, even going back to Sanskrit of ancient Sudan and Nubia, etc., of ancient Hikupta, of the lower Egypt, etc., is certainly available, including the cuneiform constructs, etc. And therefore, if someone said they receive a message, they certainly should be able to interpret it. And if they can interpret the ancient linguistic forms, certainly they should know the basic etymological constructs of modern forms of language. And if they can't do the one, they certainly can't do the other.
Okay. Patar Right Knowledge said, is the word Africa, is it of hybrid origin?
Africa is not so much hybrid. It is actually coming, or Ifrika, is Ifrika, from the ancient world of Berber linguistic groups. And even America, as you know, because ancient name for Africa is just simply more contemporary, is Amexem. And you have the prefix of Amexem and the suffix of Africa, which makes America. So when you do the etymological and linguistic grammatical study of linguistic form, America is Africa. Always was. But this is one of the traps in linguistics, which is also demonstrated again in this 8th grade test that we shared with you earlier of how they dumb down the people. And once you start doing some of even your basic discipline study, many of these questions that are asked, which are totally legitimate, you will answer them yourself. And this is where we're trying to do the best that we can with most people, get them back to fundamental disciplines and the actual arts, or the in linguistic, grammatical, and scientific disciplines that is generally loosely referred to as more science, in order to fix a lot of these problems. Because keep in mind, one of the deliberated war or psychic attacks that it has been deliberately perpetrated against the people is connotative linguistics. And this is where the priesthood has deliberately corrupted linguistic formats to cause this confusion in the first place. Because actually, when you start doing etymological research, which is the true history, the true meaning, and the true origin of words, and do what you call cross-reference, you will start recognizing actually the customs and the culture, which is the lex or the jurisprudence, and find the commonality of humanity on earth, and not what you call the towers of Babel, or the corruption on earth for the corruption of the linguistic form. And that's the truth.
Terrence Lyles asks, with many of the leadership of the Black Panther Party being educated in the degree system, why were they not preaching Moorish heritage and nationality?
Keep in mind, if you do, this is a good answer for this. Do the research on COINTEL operations at North America via the FBI and the CIA, and particularly those operations headed under the Skull and Bones operative known as J. Edgar Hoover. And you'll recognize that all organizations of Aboriginal people, and specifically Moors, etc., who were tagged as Black, have been infiltrated deliberately, and that those distinctions, including dealing with educators, were distinctly instructed not to support or expose Moorish history. Those were direct orders. You will find that in all when in all of the information exposed for those who are researchers, with the infiltration into the Moorish Divine National Movement, and particularly under the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're talking documents, and all of the so-called Negro and so-called Black organizations were infiltrated, and particularly with most of the leadership that has been compromised, for them to promote the Black nom de guerre in order to divert the energies and the positive actions, particularly dealing with hereditament, etc., in relationship to the Aboriginal people of the planet. And this has much to do with, again, with the bottomry instruments that are the support basis for the bond system on the stock market. That's why, again, there's when people are looking at the social economic problems of our targeted community, it never dawns on them that the instrumentality of the stock market is actually founded upon their backs. And the bonds are not a chain, the bonds are the bottomry instruments. And so all organizations that seek to restore legitimate self-government operations are, by organized operation, attacked and infiltrated. That is much and has much to do with the motivations as to why many of these people that you may consider who present themselves as helping our people will pretend that Black is African identity, when the word Black is not a negative. Keep this in mind, it's not negative. It creates a status platform of non-descendability, corporal and incorporeal, that supports birthright theft. But Black, in fact, actually comes from Middle English 1500s, derived from Old High German, and actually means pale colors. That's exactly what the word Black means. It means pale colors. For those who doubt it, go to any etymological dictionary Any basic grammar dictionary, grammar supported dictionary, or etymology on the English language, and you will see for yourself that the word black does not mean African people. It means pale colors. And you know what pale means? It does not mean noir. Does not mean ebony.
Amin Bey says, question. So if everything we come into direct contact with poses a danger of spreading a dangerous, contagious, and deadly disease, then why has handling fiat not been an issue of concern?
Because you already know that the foundation is a fraud. It's self-evident. You know, they attack people's common sense because common sense applies to common law. So people are groomed to even deny common sense because the answer becomes obvious. It's obvious that this is a farce being heaped upon humanity. And it's both a psychological attack and a biological attack, as demonstrated and as presented in the King Alfred Rex 84 Executive Order 11490, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It's that too is documented. And keep in mind, all your so-called leaders, black leaders, most of whom are Masons and Eastern Stars, get this knowledge anyway. But they take oaths not to reveal the secrets. Why? Because it would help humanity. Don't they happen to get these kind of comfortable ambassador and corporate jobs? Interesting, isn't it? Oh, and contracts in the musical industry.
Kirkendall Bay says, what time period or battle does the term April Fools derive from? I know about the burning of the boat. I
That's
just
where it
can't
comes
find
from.
the other information tied to the event.
So look at, do a little research on the fall of the Red House, which is ritually practiced in a Masonic ritual. So the Red House is the Alhambra, which is referred to in these days as one of the seven wonders of the world, which is remnants of the great Moorish rulership in Granada, Al-Andalusia, before it was referred to as Spain, after the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella and the defeat of the Moors. And they call that the Columbus discovery era of 1492. So look at Columbus not as a man, but as an era of political activity. And so look at the operations of the Moorish chieftain Boabdil and the relinquishing of jurisdiction of Granada so that the Romans would not burn the city or burn it down. And he abdicated or surrendered the Alhambra. Now, so the Romans promised to let the women and the children go and not murder them, which has been the tradition of Roman operations, etc., hybrid Roman operations. And so they supplied ships for them, and they put women and children on the ships, and then they burned the ships, and that was April 2nd. They call it April Fool's Day. That's where its origin is.
So, Day L. Versioner asks about
in reference to that, to the fall of the Red House too. One of the celebrations that takes place at the Maghreb in Shakamaksim, although for those operations or the fall of the Red House is the Mummers Parade that's exercised and assembled at 6th and Moore Street at Shakamaksim or Philadelphia, and it's called the Mummers Parade, January the 1st, 1492. And so they call it the new year of the dark priesthood of the Roman tribes, etc., over the Moors, i.e. the Mummers Parade celebration in what they called blackface, assembled at 6th and Moore Streets, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Going westward, then you're dealing with Horace Greeley of the Whiggamore Party, back to the Kansas-Nebraska Act, turning 90 degrees square at Broad Street, marching north Gate, and stopping at the dark north area of the parapet at City Hall, which was a battleground in Philadelphia, with the cornerstone in a grave pit just inside the dark north towers of the parapet of City Hall, designed just like a mosque and facing the Masonic Lodge where George Washington closed the lodge at Broad Street, etc., at Philadelphia. January the 1st of every year, not in harmony with nature, but when in harmony with the keeping of the fall of the Red House. And so they say, 1492, Columbus discovered America. It is a metaphor for the defeat of the Moors. That's what it is. So Columbus is not a real man in the sense that the people think it is. It's talking about an era of Inquisition operations and the success of the hybrid Germanic tribes taking over the order of Islam, etc., at the Maghrib, at the North Gate. And therefore, in Masonry, the hybrid Europeans through the Masonic order are referred to as, quote unquote, the keepers of the North Gate. And so you will see they'll have a statue of George Washington and his friend Lafayette as a statue standing in front of the great Masonic Hall at Broad Street off Jupiter, where City Hall is the place of the termination of the Mummers Parade. And when they do tours there, the first place they will take you to is the Oriental Room or the Moorish Room, which are duplication of ancient Moorish and Ionic architecture, duplicated of the old temples of the Moors, etc., within the tour operations at that lodge. That's a fact. So for you all to see some of the architecture that tells you the story, go ahead and go on a tour to the Masonic Lodge at Shakamoxon or Philadelphia at the Masonic order, and you'll see the parapet where they have Billy Penn, who landed in Chester area, and now we're going back to Winona and Tammany, and he's standing facing the lodge, etc. As soon as you look up to that parapet, and then you'll see where they close ritually the ending, or they end the parade of Mum. Mum means, Mum is the word, etc. Mockery of the Moors. And from a motivation, a political motivation, you will see why many people who have been living off the birthright and the estate of the Moors, as soon as you bring this information up, the trolls will come out like roaches after you spray the insecticide in the corners of the house.
Excuse me. DJL Reversion asked about whether or not common law liens are effective to remedy violation and enforce under the treaties.
Can I make that clear? Oh, say it again.
Common law liens, whether they are effective to remedy violations, I guess, and enforce under the treaties. I'm not sure what else the South.
It's got to be. It's
not clear.
Not no. But anyway, the enforcement of common law simply means, in its nature, when you study jurisprudence, it actually means enforcing constitutional law or positive jurisprudence. Also, it relates to res judicata and stare decisis, which means irrefutable law.
Maynard Jack asked if you could talk about Lincoln being hung.
Oh yeah, yes. That's another part of history that they don't tell people.
So it's one shot.
Lincoln was hung.
And there was another question up here whether or not he was a Moor also. So tied together.
let's put it this way. When many of you who have the flash drive, you will see on the Dungy case, when we give reference to the William Dungy case that Lincoln demonstrated, we also took a caption from satire cartoons of the 1800s that was commonly distributed around the country minds. And in the, I think, lesson book number 3, Chief Justice Ben Bay, Mu Ali, we kind of mentioned that years ago. That's another lesson book that hasn't been published. Well, we'll share some of that with you with that. And also, there's another good brother and researcher who exposed a lot of that added information to help the people. That's Lord Anton Maddox Eel.
I think he's on. He was on. I think he's on the.
Yes.
He was on in the feed in the chat.
Yeah, Lord Anton Maddox Eel does a lot of research and exposes a lot of that added information that's suppressed by a lot of people, both Asiatics and hybrids. Again, as these people begin to learn, they're going to learn that they have been lied to about our Moroccan history on multiple fronts. You also have the unfortunate situation where the hybrid Europeans, by hiding Moorish history and suppressing us, has actually been credited wrongly with some of the servitude slave history to themselves that really doesn't apply to them. And so they
were probably subjects of the slavery.
This is a lot of the dynamics of the truth of history has to be corrected to bring peace. And so in the future, a lot of this information will be also shared with you and reference points for study.
We have to do our conference. It's going to come up. But we're running to getting at the end of time. And so what I wanted to do is share, since I have this opportunity, to share with you, the viewers and listeners, that we are currently, it started today is almost over, and what's known as 3 days of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
It may coincide with the alleged death and burial of Yeshua the Christ. However, what I wanted to share with you is, I'm involved in energy healing and clearing and so forth. And we had a powerful meeting last night where those of us who use like the AO scan were instructed to Friday and Saturday to clear our homes with our energy devices. Well, a lot of you don't have the device. You've seen me run up, the scan about this thing about scanning, but you have sage or something that you can.
Old Egyptian technology.
Sage, if you can go to every room in your house and closets, corners, sage. This is a period for today, tomorrow. Sage and cleanse your environment, cleanse the closets, cleanse everything. If you can open the window.
Think of your ancient mothers and fathers while doing it.
Right. Winnow out if you have feathers to winnow out, the negative energy, and you're bringing in and saging for the positive energy. And then on Sunday, and I know this might sound a little bizarre or wild, but we were instructed.
Also, with the ancient, for those of you who have it, frankincense and myrrh.
Right.
The real good stuff.
Right. So we've been instructed to create a, I'm going to call it like a shampoo made out of aloe and frankincense and myrrh and I know an egg. And if you are vegan and don't want to do an egg, you might want to use like I don't know, like a bean, like what is the stuff that they use, those white beans? Something that was an egg substitute. And you need to maybe text me so I don't know what I did with the piece of paper. But we're putting together a shampoo that you cleanse.
Oh, yeah.
It was called head cleansing. And the brother that was sharing it with us, his father and his grandfather used to do this. At this period of time every year, they wash the head. And they
in the all around the world, because it's related to basic spring or the 4 gates of the earth's wobble behind the sun, which creates your seasons, and what we would call springtime or the new year, according to the area. So we keep in mind the view from Midgard to the heavens, the constellations energies would be different, just like you look at the longitude and latitude on Earth. And so you have the different new years around the Earth.
Yeah, chickpea.
It would be harmonic. Yeah, chickpeas. They're harmonic with the operations of nature. And so they would always do, Africans would always do what you would call cleansing. All the rituals of ancient Africa, keep in mind, are designed for protections. And it's based on a study of natures. And when people are not aware of the culture and traditions, they often look at it as something weird. It's only because they don't recognize or they have not been taught the origins and the cosmological purposes. So when you do the research, a lot of the rituals don't look like mysteries or foolishness. They actually, you begin to recognize their relationship to nature and the mind and memories of man, and the reminders of principles of your harmonic relationship to nature, and your keeping of the Sabbath, or your keeping of Sabi. Truthfully, that's what it is: traditions and customs.
Well, what I wanted to say is I don't want it to, of course, we always, first of all, I want to appreciate those of you who supported Sharon
Yes.
with your donations for the Tuesday night show. I know she greatly appreciated everything that came in. I did what I said I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We also, we just want to make sure too.
Yeah, we want to thank you all for supporting the House of Reawakening Minds, and many of you people, brothers and sisters, and supporters who have been supporting us with your presence and with your donations. Many of you we can't get to personally, but we want you all to know that we appreciate your support, and it helps get this work done. So continue, we trust, to support the House of Reawakening Minds, and keep in mind that the House of Reawakening Minds and the official office hours with Dr. G are in place to help the people, help us, help you, help us all together. So thank you very much, and know that all of your supports are appreciated sincerely. And thank you all, and have a grand evening.
Again, like I said, thank you for your support. And can we just, because we're in this time of cleansing, I want to take a moment. If we could just, we got 3 minutes. We're gonna
3 minutes.
We're gonna meditate out, if you don't mind, Gracie.
Yes.
And isn't that a beautiful aunt that I was able to?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Gracie, grab those pieces, these 1950s pieces.
Oh,
that I just. Thank you so much. That I was just able to procure from the 50s. I just want to share this. And we're going to go out with some tones.
These are brass statues on pure marble bases.
Put it down some. Down. There you go. And I was able to, and these are from the 50s. Lift up some. These are awesome that I was able, and I'm so happy that they actually have our features.
Yes.
Like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Let us go out with our tones.